Let's switch gears now to the one team, the one league where I'm telling you I see the most promise, most excitement in this city, and it's the Toronto Raptors. 10,000%. I can tell you this, having gone to enough sports cities around North America, and there's a buzz about the Raptors wherever you go. People love what they're doing. And to me, that starts with on top, Masai Ujiri. Like, what else can you say about the man except for that's a leader?
Yeah, that's a leader, world-class guy. What you hear about him, what he's done away from the Raptors, what he does in the Canadian community, what he does in his home country community, and all the other things that he supports, he gets a tremendous amount of respect around. It all comes back. You put stuff into community, but you get the respect back, and that's why players are prepared to listen to him and consider Toronto as an option. And I think you're right. It all comes down to his type of leadership. But there's also a guy who was prepared to make the bold move
Yes.
to win a championship.
Yeah, I mean, look at the move, the Kawhi Leonard move. Now, you look at when Kawhi went to the Clippers and how that played out. That could have easily gone our way also, as far as
Yep.
load management, injuries, issues with team doctors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I think we caught lightning in a bottle that year. I think we got him at the right place at the right time. It all came together nicely. That was a magical year. We all felt it living in the city.
Mm-hmm.
We can't tell you we knew we were going to win the championship, but we knew we had a chance every night. And that was a great, great feeling. In many ways, I kind of think maybe they lucked out as far as not having signed him to a long-term deal because it hasn't played out so well in the Clippers. We may have been during that as well. But look at how the team has been functioning since he left. That's, to me, a model of a team. You have some very talented people, some mediocre players. They all play to their strengths. They play as a team, though. And that's one of the things I love about watching the Raptors, even without Kawhi.
Yeah, and look, it was a ballsy move. You're getting rid of DeMar DeRozan, an all-star in the league, and all these years later, he's still an all-star. He's sort of carrying like the Chicago franchise right now. But they sort of recognize that he, as good as he is, and as talented as he is, he's not necessarily the type of player that makes everybody around him better. It's more, no, give him the ball and clear out, and he'll do it, and he can score. But I think adding Kawhi has sort of taught everybody else, like, here's a guy who's really good offensively, but man, this guy can get down and play defense. And he's going to get that big steal when you need it. And he pushes everybody else to do the same thing. So it's guys like, Fred VanVleet that learn from that. And Siakam, who are up and comers, and they see this guy, with his reputation, he's already a champion, and he's diving for balls, and he's playing as hard on defense as anybody. And they say, okay, if he could do it, I could do it. That's what it takes to win, and you got to recognize that. And I think that's what the management did. That's why they needed Kawhi. It's not just how good Kawhi could be; it's can he elevate everybody else. And some athletes do that, and some don't.
So the hot rumor in Toronto, it's been there for a while now, is this guy named KD, Kevin Durant. Maybe a bit of a malcontent, you can say. Whatever
Yeah.
being's going on with him
Yeah.
today or tomorrow. And same thing with Kyrie Irving. We don't hear about Kyrie here at all, but we sure hear about KD. And my question to you is, what are the chances you think the Raptors get KD? And do you even want KD here, knowing the price you're going to have to pay to get him?
Personally, my short answer is no, I don't want him. I think fabulous basketball player, an all-time great. I've got a huge amount of respect for what he can do in a basketball court. But he's 34 years old. He's averaged playing 41 games a season over the last 8 years. Okay, heard that in the radio coming down here today, so I didn't make that up.
Excellent.
So when you look at that, like,
Scary.
there's a significant price to pay to get him, because if Toronto were to get him, they would have to give up significant assets. That's what the Nets were looking for. So you're going to get rid of a couple, one or two of your current starters, plus some benching, plus a whole bunch of draft picks. He's 34 years old, and chances are he's not going to play more than half the games. So who's playing when he's not playing? And if he is playing, do you have enough around him to go for the championship? When they did it with Kawhi, it was different. We didn't have to, we gave up a major guy in DeMar DeRozan, but we didn't have to strip the team. So when Kawhi got here, there was enough around him to be competitive. And then he happened to elevate everybody's game because of the type of player and his leadership on the court. So it worked. I don't see that working with a 34-year-old broken down Kevin Durant, as good as he can be. I don't see it.
But on that token, without KD, you look at the core they have right now. I'm really excited about it. Like Scotty Barnes, like people were kind of flacking on him a little bit for drafting him, and what did he do? He just went out and got the Rookie of the Year. He was
Right.
our one of our most consistent players, if not our most consistent players last year. High energy guy, amazing on both ends of the court. That's a guy you build around. And if we're gonna get KD, we're gonna lose
You're
him
going to lose
probably.
him. Right.
There's no deal without him
Right.
apparently, and likely Siakam as well. Why would you gut your team at that point? You're right.
Yeah. Then
It's
who's KD playing with when he
yeah.
is here? Like, is there enough to be competitive, let alone win a championship? Because you're going to get your team stripped and you're going to lose all your draft picks in your future. I'd rather take my chances with Scotty Barnes and his development because he may not be a Kevin Durant, but he can certainly be at least a DeMar DeRozan type player that you can build around and be a really key piece. And you got Fred VanVleet and you got a few other guys, and you look for the next guy and you do the next draft. I think their chances of winning might be greater over the next few years by continuing building that way as opposed to trying to go for, I like the idea of going for a home run sometimes like we did last time, but I don't think KD's the right guy to do it at his age and with his injuries.
I love how in sports things go in cycles. So, for example, in baseball, Kansas City wins the World Series because they have three closers in the bullpen, seventh, eighth, nine. So
Right.
that's a new formula.
Right.
Everybody needs to have three closers.
Right.
That's the way it's gonna be. In basketball, when you have Shaq, everybody needs that big man. We're gonna build around a big man. Then all of a sudden you got now Golden State, so everybody wants to shoot threes. Everybody tries to build this model. I would say in basketball, compared to any other sport, real team, you five guys on the court mainly plus your bench. When you have the same core consistently and they've grown up together like they did in Golden State, never mind the KD years, but I could see in Toronto, if you left this core the way it is, everybody's healthy, everybody's playing to their max. I think we got a real shot this year and every year. The way the basketball landscape is set up. I mean, this whole idea of now the super teams and you got to have two superstars, three superstars, back to two superstars. I think that's all washed away. I don't think there's a clear formula now, but I think the Raptors are in a really good spot now and into the future.
Yeah. And I think some of that is their coaching. And I think some of that's just the evolution of the modern basketball player. Like when I grew up playing, you found the biggest guy you could find, and he was your center. And then you had the next two biggest guys were your forwards, and you tried to teach them some low post stuff, and they're playing in the corners. And then you had your two guards, and one might have been a point guard, one was a shooting guard, but you still had two guards. And so you found that's how everybody built the team. You had Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you had Wilt Chamberlain. Everybody's looking for that, and then you find your Jerry West or your Oscar Robertson, and you got guys shooting. Basketball is completely different. I think the Raptors really recognized this last year. It was like, who are our five best athletes? Let's get them on the court at the same time. Don't forget about what number the position is or what you call the position. Let's put our five best athletes on because they're all, 6'4" to 6'10", and put the best five guys, and they can all play defense. And they can all play all over the court. And don't give them a number anymore, and don't give them a position anymore. Let's just put our five best athletes and let them go play. And then one of those guys is tired. Let's give him a breather and get the next guy in there. And I think that's what Nick Nurse was doing last year. And I thought it was a brilliant way to play basketball. They're all such good athletes. You don't have to pitch in a guy. So, oh no, you're 6'10" or 6'11". You can only play with your back to the basket and learn how to take hook shots like Jabbar did. Like, no, you could face the basket. You could shoot 3-pointers. You could play it anywhere. And then you got to switch off, which is how basketball's defense is played. You're switching off constantly, so anybody can cover anybody. You got to be, you got to be Fred VanVleet's got to cover a guy 6'10" sometimes and be able to do it effectively. And I think they're learning that. So I love the way they play now.
And people have this bias saying that the West is so strong and everything's in the West. But yeah, maybe it's very concentrated at the top of the West. But the teams that are good in the East, they're really, really good. You got Milwaukee's always a threat. Philadelphia's always a threat. The team that I think is most Boston. The team that I think is most similar to me as Raptors is the Heat, and I simply because great coaching, GM, president, they have stability. A lot of those guys have been there for a while. They brought in the right free agents. I love the mix. I went down to Miami last year, got to see a couple of Heat games, and I gotta say, like consistently, like including the bench, like wow, they are a scary, scary team. And it all begins for them with Jimmy Butler, but they got great players that are like 1A, 1B, 1C.
Mhm.
So they're not quite a super team, but they're more of a team concept. And that's where I see the Raptors going. So I think if they can
Yeah,
get past the Heat, I think they have a pretty good shot. But like you're saying, Boston's pretty scary too. And there's a lot
yeah,
of good teams out there.
yeah. Like last year, I thought the Heat was going to win it. I think the Heat healthy, they could have stayed healthy. I think they were the team to beat because Jimmy Butler plays that Kawhi rule. Like he can sit back, let everybody do their thing the first 3 quarters. But we need baskets in the fourth quarter. Like he's unbelievable. And he need a steal in the fourth quarter. He's unbelievable. And they bring in a veteran like Kyle Lowry, who we all love, and he shows leadership and he shows guts. And then they got the young guys. So there's a good mix of the old and the young. Hero, and they got some really good players there. They ran into a lot of injuries, but I think they've got a good coaching. So look out for them this year.
So we both think that the Raptors may have a good shot this year. So we're feeling good about the franchise as a whole
Yeah,
and as
yeah.
far as their championship aspirations.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure if they could win it because there's a lot of real good competition. Like you said, but I think they're going to be as competitive as anybody. And as these guys grow and mature, like I'd give them a chance as opposed to blowing it up.